Yo, what's up? My name's Patrouski, and one of the things that has changed the most about PokeMMO over the past 3 to 4 years is the addition of all of the new legendary and mythical Pokemon. If you would have asked me 4 years ago how many legendary Pokemon are in PokeMMO, I would have told you 0. Now, if you asked me 3 years ago how many legendary Pokemon are in PokeMMO, I would have said kind of just 1. There is one mythical, permanently ownable in Shaman. And if you ask me today, Patrouski, how many legendary Pokemon are in PokeMMO, I would tell you 19. And potentially a secret 20th that no one has discovered yet. A lot has changed when it comes to legendary Pokemon in PokeMMO, and today I'm going to do my best to explain everything you need to know about legendary Pokemon. How to find them, where you can find them, how to catch them, and how to adjust their IVs, and everything under that umbrella will be featured here today. If you find this video helpful, make sure to leave a quick like on it and consider subscribing for daily PokeMMO videos. Now, I'm going to break all of these different legendary Pokemon down into 5 different categories. And these categories are King of the Hill Legendary, which are not permanently ownable, Roaming Legendaries, which are all permanently ownable unless otherwise stated, Permanent Raid Boss Legendary, Holiday Event Legendaries, and then Darkrai. Darkrai gets his own category because he is very special. Also, probably the most controversial legendary Pokemon to be added to PokeMMO, but we'll get to that when we get to that. And before we even jump into any specific details of any legendary Pokemon in PokeMMO, I do want to cover all of the items and ways you can buff up and empower and make your legendary Pokemon stronger. Now, these only work for the permanently ownable legendary Pokemon on this list, so if it's not permanently ownable, other things like you can't really up their stats from my understanding. But for all the permanently ownable ones, which you'll understand a little bit more in a quick second, here are all of the items you need to know about. First things first is nature herbs. Nature herbs are the main way, or the only way you can change your nature on legendary Pokemon. Different nature herbs cost different amounts of Pokeyen, as you can see on the GTL, and you get nature herbs by farming Grasiduas or just buying them off the GTL. Unless you are some sort of restricted account, you should just buy these off the GTL. It is much faster and usually cheaper. Grasiduas are farmed to have a rare chance at getting those nature herbs, as well as Grasiduas will allow you to change the IVs on Shaman. So every 1 Grasidua can be used to affect Shaman's IVs by 1. So if you have like 30 special attack, you can use 1 Grasidua and up it to 31. The same is true with all of these IV changing items we're about to cover. So for Shaman, you have Grasidua flowers. For all of the Kanto birds, you have the elemental orbs. This includes, and it says on all of these items, this includes Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres. Next up, we have the Johto beasts. These require the rainbow quills. These all affect the IV stats by 1 for Raikou, Entei, and Suicune. Next up is Etran, one of the big bad raid bosses. He requires magma stones, which are about 2,000, 3,000. All these are about the same price, around 2 to 4k a piece right now. Etran is the only Pokemon whose IVs can be affected by the magma stone. Next up, you have the lunar wing, which is how you affect the IVs of Cresselia. That is the only item, is the only way to buff up your Cresselia. Then you have Meloetta, which is affected by the, sorry, I keep tipping the legendary, excuse me, it's been a long day. Then you have Meloetta, which is affected by the relic note. Once again, that is the only way to buff up Meloetta. Then you have Terrakion, Virizion, and Cobalion, which are all affected by the Plume of Feathers. The Plume of Feathers works for all 3 of the sword trios. Then you have Jirachi, which requires the blank wish tags. And then finally, you do have Darkrai, who is the weird exception to the non-permanently ownable rule, who does use Dream Essences to boost his stats. Whenever you complete these raids or catch the roaming legendaries, you do get a certain amount of these. I believe for like the roaming legendaries, you get like 20 elemental orbs or 20 rainbow quills, depending on which one you catch, obviously, when you catch one of those legendaries in the wild. And when you defeat the raid legendaries or obtain any of the other legendaries, you'll get some amount of these, but you'll probably need more for the future, which you can get by rebattling the raids or buying them off of the GTL, plain and simple. Let's first talk about King of the Hill Legendaries, which have actually been implemented into PokeMMO as far back as 2013, if not 2012. I just didn't play in 2012, so I can't confirm for sure, but I have played as far back as 2013 and can confirm that these Pokemon, or at least one of them, was in the game back then. You see, King of the Hill Legendaries are implemented in 1 per region, which when the game first started, PokeMMO back in 2012-2013 era, there was only Kanto in the game. Nowadays, there are, of course, the 5 regions we know and love today: Kanto, Johto, Hoenn, Sinnoh, and Unova. And each of them have a designated King of the Hill legendary, which only one person on the entire server can own at a time. Well, at least they all used to have one. Unova actually just recently got stripped of its King of the Hill legendary, and we still don't know why. People were theorizing that they were going to turn Keldeo, which its King of the Hill used to be Keldeo. They're theorizing they're going to turn Keldeo into a permanent raid. If not, Keldeo might secretly already be in the game, and the players have just not figured out how to get him yet. I err on the second one, honestly. I know it's a bit of a it's a guesstimation, but it's very PokeMMO developer coded, if you know the way that they like to work. They love to implement things and not really give the player the full heads up to let us discover them in real time. They did this initially with roaming legendary Pokemon. The first time ever someone ever got Zapdos in PokeMMO, we didn't even know it was in the game. Someone just randomly ran into one in the wild. But I'm going to do my very best to not get too distracted, as this will be a very dense video. Let's first stick with the King of the Hill legendaries, and the first one being Mewtwo. Now, Mewtwo can be found at the very bottom of Cerulean Cave, which you will need all of the Sevia Islands quest and all of the Kanto storyline done to be able to access properly. But you can follow my path on screen now over here in Cerulean Cave to get over to this like inner ladder. We're going to work our way over to the Mewtwo spawn. Now, Mewtwo is very rare, and we honestly don't even know how rare it exactly is. People seem to guesstimate that King of the Hill legendaries have a 1 in 10,000 encounter rate, but nobody knows for sure. It has not been confirmed by the devs to my knowledge. And that is actually true for most of the legendary Pokemon we're going to talk about today, especially the roaming legendaries. But once again, the community has done a lot of farming on these, so we're pretty decently confident on our guesstimations of the encounter rates. But go ahead and follow over here. You can surf. Again, you don't need Rock Smash to get to this location. You just need Surf, and you will have to surf 2 different times. This is where Mewtwo would actually be in the original games. And then from this point forward, you should be able to just run around in this entire lower level. I don't think you have to be on that exact one platform. I think encounters usually work by levels within the cave itself. So you should be able to just run back and forth here until you get Mewtwo, but it's going to take a very, very long time. You also have to make sure that someone else doesn't already own the Mewtwo, because like I mentioned earlier, King of the Hill legendaries, there is truly only one per server active at a time. Not one per player, not one per character, one Pokemon per server. And if you happen to catch and own the Mewtwo, then you are forced to accept PvP battles with other players, and if they beat you, they steal the Mewtwo from you. That is where the name King of the Hill Legendary comes from. Now, you cannot queue up for PvP if you have these Pokemon in your inventory, and you can't do a lot of PVM activities like raids as well. If you try to log out with the Pokemon, it'll be sent back to the wild. You also can't use escape ropes, teleport, fly, or change regions while you have these Pokemon. These style of Pokemon have existed in the game for 13 or so years at this point, but every time I talk about them, people always ask in the comments, oh, well, no one's ever thought about this. What if someone just caught the Mewtwo and logged off? Then they would have it forever. Yeah, the developers have thought about this. They've been doing this for a long time, man. Everything you could possibly think of will just send the legendary back to the wild and let it be obtainable once again. And the real question is, why would you do this? There are a few different reasons. Number one, you do actually get a little bit of battle points from getting it, so there is like a small pragmatic incentive in that regard, but mostly it's just for the achievement and the flex, which is the main reason we all play video games, especially MMOs, to begin with. Having Mewtwo logged in your Pokedex is quite the flex. Once again, I've been playing this game for 13 years, almost 10,000 hours on this one account, 11,000 hours if you include my alt accounts. I've never owned Mewtwo. Like, it's one of those achievements that not a lot of people go for, but those that do, it is a very cool flex, and it shows a lot of dedication for a pretty cool niche grind. And now that you understand the King of the Hill legendaries a bit more, let's go check out the other locations in the other regions. Alright, but if Mewtwo is the King of the Hill legendary in Kanto, that means in Johto we have Lugia. Once again, if possible, if you're interested in hunting these, you should try to check the chats, especially the global chats or the system messages within PokeMMO, because they are going to tell you if someone has them or not. The game will systematically send out these messages and announcements every so often to let you know whenever the legendary has changed hands or has gotten bored and sent back to the wild. But to go encounter Lugia or even have a chance at it, you want to head and go over to Cyanwood City. And make sure you bring a Surf Pokemon, a Waterfall Pokemon, and a Whirlpool Pokemon for all the different 8 gems you'll need. Go ahead and pop a repel and surf on this water over at Route 41 just east of Cianwood, and then stick to the southeastern little section. So stick to this little path here, just ignore that first whirlpool, keep going to the east, and then eventually loop up the only way you really can go, and then you'll reach over to this whirlpool right in front of this girl, and you want to go ahead and use your whirlpool right across it, whether with ocarinas the way that I have or with your Pokemon. Then you want to head left a little bit and north up through this little crevice, come to the back end of this cave, head over here and surf around it to the entrance, just like so, inside. Now you can use flash here, and I'm going to go ahead and use flash just because I have the ocarina, but you don't actually need to. You can traverse this without the use of flash, and I'll hopefully show you how to do so. So just head directly north. Don't go left or right at all. Head directly north until you bonk into the wall, and then start heading east until you can't anymore, and then go ahead and head north here down this first ladder. Then from this ladder, you want to go ahead and head south slowly, just dodge whatever rock and kind of just hug this left wall. Honestly, is probably the best way to do it. Just go south and west a little bit, keep hugging the walls wherever you need to be. And then once you reach this little cross section, you want to head down this ladder right here. Make sure to pop repels wherever you need them. And then head south of this ladder, east, and then south again, and go past this bald fella right here. And then just keep heading down this giant staircase, very cinematic, until we reach this little entrance. And then inside of here is where Lugia would actually be in the original Pokemon games. Obviously, it does not work like that in PokeMMO. Well, kind of. You actually can see this one's sprite, unsimilar to Mewtwo, and you can actually try to interact with it, and it'll just say function not implemented. But you should be able to find Lugia just outside of the cave out here. I think is the best place to hunt, and I believe from my understanding you can find Lugia both on land and water. I'd recommend hunting it on land right here, so you can go ahead and hop on your bike, and that gets you faster encounters. It's also good, of course, to use all of your typical things while you hunt here, things like expert lures if you want to, and then things like using an illuminate, a Pokemon that has an ability that increases your encounters per hour. If you don't know, there are certain abilities like no guard, like illuminate's one of the easiest ones. I'll just show you that. Certain little abilities that slightly increase your encounters. Illuminate, it doesn't actually show you actually in the thing there, but it gives you 10% increased encounters per hour. If you've watched some of my other videos, I talked about it constantly. There are abilities like illuminate, swarm, no guard, arena trap. They all kind of have this similar effect when you are leading your party with one of those Pokemon. Make sure to bring plenty of escape ropes, or bring a dig ocarina or a Pokemon with dig as well whenever you go to any of these deep caves. Damp Pokemon are also recommended, as the odds of you running into a self-destruct or explosion shiny Pokemon while hunting in these caves is decently high. You can also bring a level 80 or 90 Pokemon and then use repels and do something called repel tricking for these legendary Pokemon. Repel tricking abuses the fact that repels work in a specific way that most people kind of forget about. They don't just repel all wild Pokemon, they repel all wild Pokemon that are lower level than your lead Pokemon. So for example, if I were to lead my party with this level 82 Shaman and hunt for the legendary Pokemon with repels, I would get 0 encounters except for the legendary Pokemon. The problem is that legendary Pokemon still has a 1 in 10,000 or so, we don't know for sure obviously, 1 in 10,000 or so encounter rate. So I am going to be burning through a lot of repels, and it's going to be very, very expensive, but it will be much faster than if I were to just sit there running back and forth without repels. So decide or not to repel trick at your own discretion. It is very expensive, but should make things a lot faster. But there's also no shiny chance this way, and it kind of makes things a bit less fun in my opinion. But next up, let's head over to Generation 3, aka Hoenn, and go find Rayquaza. Now, you're going to need a mock bike to actually be able to get up to the Rayquaza in Hoenn, and of course the Hoenn region completed. So if you're like me and you actually have the acro bike equipped, don't worry, it's really quick and easy to go switch your bike over in PokeMMO. You want to first go over to Hoenn and then fly over to Mauville City, head into the bike shop right here, and then talk to this individual right here, and he'll go ahead and switch you out your acro bike for your mock bike, and vice versa if you need your acro bike to hop around and go to other locations. The mock bike allows you to speed over certain terrain, and the acro bike lets you hold B and hop over certain terrain. Now, Rayquaza is going to be found at the top of Sky Pillar. Of course, if it is not already owned by someone, you want to head over to Pacifila Dogtown. Yes, that is how you say it. Pacifila Dogtown over in Hoenn, and start heading to the east and keep hugging this little rocked area right here. And eventually you can head inside and loop around to the west like so, and just try to wiggle your way in here until you get to this little cave entrance right here. And now we're at the very beginnings of Sky Pillar. All right, first the simple stuff. Go ahead and hop on your bike and head through the only entrance right here. Head up to this little sky pillar, actual entrance, the big building part. And now this is where you really need your mock bike. Don't worry, thankfully you don't really have to do anything. You have to just follow the path. You want to first head to the left side and loop around like so, and then head up this first initial staircase. And if you have your mock bike from this point, it should be really easy. You'll be able to go over these because you are fast and zoomy enough like so. If you have your acro bike, you will not be able to go over those. It is that plain and simple, and there's really only one path to go. You just head over to each staircase, each little doorway whenever you have access to it, loop around like so, keep heading through the cracks like this. You might want to slow down a little bit and be a little careful if you see a rough situation, but you should be fine. And then once you get over here, you reach the dead end, and you want to actually drop down into one of these two holes in the middle here, not these two edge holes. So I'm going to go ahead and go back like this. That will drop me down here into the middle staircase, and now I can go into that and then head up. This is only really one path there, and then keep looping around one or so more times up this staircase, and now we're at a new area. And I believe this is the area where Rayquaza would traditionally be in the games. Yep, we can actually see that right here. And this is where you can actually encounter Rayquaza by just running back and forth around this area wherever you find to be the most comfortable. Good luck, you will surely need it. Important to note that you can actually fly from the top of this pillars. You don't need to dig out or anything like that. But next up, onto the fourth and final one. Weirdly, we'll go over to the spot in Unova where Keldeo used to be in a quick sec, but all these spots are a pain in the butt to get to, unfortunately. So I wish you guys the best of luck, and if you appreciate all my work on this, make sure to go ahead and hit that like button. But for Arceus, we're going to start over in Orabird City. You want to head north, and then make sure you have a bunch of HMs for this. You are going to need, I believe, Rock Climb, Surf, Strength is needed for sure, and then maybe a few others like Rock Smash. I just would bring as many HMs as possible just in case. And then fun fact, if you really need to, you cannot overwrite HMs with other HMs in PokeMMO, but you can overwrite HMs with super cheap TMs, things like Safeguard, which most Pokemon can learn, and then rewrite those TMs with HMs. So a fun thing that I used to do a ton would be if I have my HM Dragonite, which learns most HMs in the game, and I need to change out one of the moves, I would teach Safeguard over something like his Defog, and then go ahead and reteach an HM like Rock Smash over the Safeguard. So if you have a bunch of a cheap TM, you can kind of have any HM Pokemon do whatever HMs you need. But anyways, you want to head inside this cave entrance here, once again to the northeast of Orabird City, which is right here on the map. You need to start from the bottom of Mount Coronet. Make sure to bring a billion repels and hop on this first patch of water and surf across to the east, just like so. And here you already need Rock Climb. You also want to traverse this a little carefully because you can hop over it and just waste a little bit of time. But head over here, Rock Climb carefully, go up like so, and then go up the staircase, or miss a few times like me. We're going to do a little bit of a loop-de-loop pattern here. You want to head north and then west, and then head south and just strength this all the way down. We're trying to get over to this wooden bridge over here, as you can see. So strength this down nice and out of the way. Head west a little bit, head north, west, and then loop around over here. And then we're going to make a full clockward motion right here. So we're going to head north and then east across this bridge, and then south a little bit, and then west a little bit, like a clock would, like fully rotating around, and then head over to this, which looks barricaded by rocks, but you actually can just go through it as long as you've completed the Sinnoh storyline. Now you want to go ahead and head up this staircase right here, as it's the only path, of course. Then go ahead and head north and west and just loop around once again. This is counterclockwise now, and now we'll be outside. Now you want to go up this little mini staircase and head all the way east and then all the way north, and then head back down a little bit. You'll go over to this little rock climb encounter. You want to rock climb once, not twice, just once. And then head west from here. Head over into this grassy area, head west, and then north. There should be a cave entrance right here. Yep, right here. All right, now inside this cave, we're going to head north and east mostly. We're going to head north and rock climb up here. We're going to head northeast as much as we can. Hop on your bike if you want to speed things up. Ignore that little, or I guess follow that little staircase, excuse me, the first staircase. Head over here to this little cave exit. Now we can see these stairs just to the north of us. You want to head over to that and then head north once again, and then rock climb to the left right here. Then make your way over to this strength boulder and go ahead and push this aside. And then we're going to head down this staircase right here, and then this staircase as well. It's this little big flat white line that just stretches across, and head all the way west over to new staircases. Then you want to come back towards the screen and head south, and you'll see this little cave entrance right here, and we are almost there. You want to just follow the only path within this cave and just keep following this path. keep following the only path. You actually see someone here doing some cool encounters, probably shiny hunting. I know there is Chimecho, I believe. Chimecho and potentially Camerupt at the very top of this. ×5 Horde, Lepa, Shunt spots. I think Chimecho is right here, if I recall. I don't have a switch on me, but then up here, this is where you would normally encounter Arceus in the original games, to my knowledge, which I'm not very... I'm a PokeMMO player first, Pokemon player second. And you should be able to encounter Arceus right here, just back through that little one section a little bit we just came from. There's actually a forum post, and there's a lot of anxiety when it comes to hunting Pokemon like this. Understandably so. You wouldn't want to spend hundreds of hours in the wrong spot. So I was able to scrounge up this old PokeMMO forum post from 2023, where this player confirmed they did find Arceus over here in this exact location where I'm at in game right now. So there probably are tons of other locations. I saw somebody screenshot one like in a grass tile somewhere. There's probably tons of different spots in Mount Coronet where you can find Arceus, but I have this one to be pretty decently confirmed, so I feel pretty confident in recommending this spot. And then finally, Unova is hilariously the easiest one, but unfortunately, once again, there is no roaming legendary currently in Unova. It was recently removed from an update patch, and they were going to do something with Keldeo, and they either never did or already did, and once again, we don't know about it. But Keldeo used to be able to be found over, you would head over to Icarus City, you would pop repels and head inside this little area here. When it's winter, there is frozen ice you have to traverse around. But you can just brute force your way northeast over here pretty darn easily. Maybe make sure to like surf into the water here like I'm about to do and traverse to the east over here. There's a little forest entrance, as you can see, right off beyond this trainer. Okay, maybe it's a little bit harder when there's ice. So if you're stupid like me, make sure to surf on this little area and then head east at like the highest end possible, and then you should be able to actually reach this area and head into the forest. Like it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple and easy, and then you can go ahead and find Keldeo in here. But once again, he is currently unavailable, but he is expected to be these question mark raids right here, but we don't know for sure. And this menu is actually a really good piece of information if you're looking for a lot of these legendary Pokemon. This is called the Instance Info tab, which can be found in the bottom right part of your screen, and then you click Instance Info. It's going to bring up a bunch of information about the raids you have available, the different, just different instances, different fights, like the Elite Fours, the refights, the Ho-Oh refight, the Trainer Red refight at the top of Mount Silver. This is going to let you know how many times you've done something and if it is ready to be recaptured or refought once again. But I believe that finally fully covers King of the Hill legendary Pokemon. That was a lot longer than I expected, but I hope it was a lot of dense information like we talked about. Next up is going to be roaming legendaries. Probably the most common legendary you'll see, the biggest like fan favorite, and a great way to get into legendary hunting as well as just into endgame grinding within PokeMMO. Some of you might have even been lucky enough to encounter a roaming legendary on accident just during a part of your storyline or post-storyline XP training. There is one roaming legendary in both Kanto and Johto per month that you can catch. And unlike the King of the Hill legendaries, absolutely everyone can catch one of these per month. It's not just limited to one player on the entire server. For example, everybody gets one Zapdos every 3 months or so, and they rotate. And you can actually see which legendaries are up right now over on the Team Synergy website, which will be linked in the description. I believe my Discord also has a good resource, but the Synergy website is a really powerful tool that has been popping off recently in PokeMMO. That website is incredibly simple and just looks like this, so a huge shout out to them for all the recent resources. You can even see a full calendar on the website. So this is the calendar for all legendary Pokemon within 2026, and they just rotate every 3 months or so. So it goes Zapdos in January, Moltres in February, Articuno in March, and then back to Zapdos, Moltres, Articuno. And the same is true with the Johto Beast. It goes Entei, Suicune, Raikou, Entei, Suicune, Raikou. Now, most people will just hunt for one OT of each of these legendaries because it is relevant to have OTs of these Pokemon for special raids that require a certain amount of your OTs to actually be able to do the raid themselves. But you can absolutely hunt multiple of these if you want to, or want to go for shiny chance. Yes, you can get shiny roaming legendaries in PokeMMO and own them permanently. We call these Schlegendaries. These are so extremely rare, though, you'll almost never find them over on the GTL because they're actually worth more than the max cash stack of 2 billion Pokeyen. But that's been changing a bit over time, and it always depends on what the person is willing to pay, of course, when it comes to something so rare and collectible like that. The official rate for these roaming legendary Pokemon has never been confirmed, but the community guesstimates that it's around 1 in 5,000 or so. The dev/staff did confirm at one point that it's somewhere between 1 in 1k and 1 in 8k, so we know it's not below that or higher than that. But of course, as with anything, it comes down to RNG. Some people will get legendaries within 200 encounters, and sometimes you go 22,000 encounters dry. It's just a roll of the dice, and it depends, and you'll run into all these different variations when you hunt long enough. Which is why it's actually so important to pick a spot that you really like when you're legendary hunting. Which is why I do have 2 videos, which will be linked in the description, showing off 5 different spots for both hunting the Johto beasts and the Kanto birds. These spots will have different money-making methods and shiny Pokemon to run into along the way. Legendary hunting is truly the intro to grinding in PokeMMO. It's an intense grind and an intense experience, and I cannot recommend enough giving it a shot, but also understanding that you are in for the long haul. You cannot expect this to be a quick endeavor. Now, I do severely recommend to not use your Master Ball on these Pokemon, as they are very easy to re-encounter once you do first encounter them, and they can always be re-achieved in the future. Master Balls are one of the most rare, valuable resources to some extent within PokeMMO. You do get 5 of them, so the odds of you needing all of them is very, very slim, but typically we save Master Balls in PokeMMO for shiny Pokemon that can KO themselves that you are not prepared for. The best way to catch these roaming legendaries is with timer balls. Lots and lots of timer balls, and making sure you have a infinitely sustainable catching Breloom with False Swipe, Spore, Substitute, and Poison Heal. If you have this kind of Breloom, you are able to infinitely sit in front of the legendary and basically never die. The main problem, the main way that people lose their legendary encounters is when it KOs itself from struggling to death, which absolutely can just happen from poor RNG, but it is okay. If your legendary Pokemon, either you run away from it in the fight, it KOs you, or it KOs itself, once you first encounter that roaming legendary for the month, it does reset every month. But let's say I wanted to hunt Zapdos right now. It's April 30th. I'd have very little time since this rotates every single month, but let's say I wanted to try to go ahead and hunt Zapdos really quick. If I were to encounter Zapdos and fail the catch, it lowers its encounter rate once you've seen it within that month to 1 in 500. That has been confirmed by the devs. So it is very, very easy to re-obtain. You can do that in about an hour and a half to 2 hours. But on average, a roaming legendary hunt is going to take around 20 or so hours. That is, of course, if you're hunting efficiently with swarm Pokemon and expert lures and all those other things. I have another video covering this as well on how to hunt them and what you really want to utilize to hunt them properly. Everybody hunts at a different pace for a myriad of reasons, so make sure to just go ahead and do your own math. I say 20 hours, but that's if you're hunting efficiently. Let's say you're hunting at 50% efficiency. That's going to turn that into a 40-hour hunt. So make sure to just build your expectations properly on your own numbers. Or if you can, avoiding any expectation at all and just doing the hunt in the background, and when the legendary pops up, it pops up. This is truly the intro to shiny hunting in PokeMMO, and it really comes down to acknowledging you can only control certain aspects. You can only get so many encounters per hour, and a lot of it is just endurance and being able to push through the mental, I guess, damage of going dry and going through things. That is the core and the basis for shiny hunting. Seeing how long you can go before you give up. A lot of PokeMMO grinds are decided by who is the last person to give up. It is important to note that you can find these roaming legendaries pretty much anywhere across the regions. However, you cannot find them within caves. So you do want to be hunting outdoors and doing single encounters. While you do this, you also cannot find these in x5 hordes. But once again, these videos will cover that in more detail. The final thing I want to talk about is heed my warning for legendary lures. Many new players will be tempted by these. They give you a 30% increased chance of encountering a roaming legendary. That sounds really good. It's actually really bad. Legendary lures are extremely expensive for their effect and for their benefit, costing you anywhere from 400 to 600,000 Pokeyen per hour, and only saving you about 4 to 6 hours over the course of a hunt, which is going to cost you millions and millions of Pokeyen. I see so many players who go a little bit dry on a legendary, maybe 6,000 encounters or so, and then start popping legendary lures because they want to rush things and, finish up the hunt. I cannot encourage you enough. Do not do this. Most players that do this will pop legendary lures, waste all of their new Pokeyen, and then just kind of never get the legendary Pokemon and then quit the game on top of it, because now they have no legendary, no Pokeyen, and they're just left with nothing. Do not fall into this trap. These lures are really only if you want to have a little bit of fun and you're pretty rich, you have some extra Pokeyen to piss away and spare, then you can go ahead and pop these for fun, not to get the legendary, not a make it or break it situation. But at the end of the day, you can do whatever you want with your money. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm just trying to tell you my suggestions and my personal advice. But I think that covers everything for roaming legendaries. If I missed something, let me know in the comments. Next up is the permanent raid boss legendaries, which we just got a ton of in the recent event season. And that gives me a perfect time to mention that we see on average these days about 3 new legendary Pokemon every single event season in PokeMMO. If you don't know, event season is the Halloween event, the Christmas event, and then the Lunar New Year event, which are all very close together in like a 3 to 4 month or so period. And we just saw Cresselia and Meloetta and all of the legendary sword trios like Virizion, Terrakion, and Cobalion all added to the game. All of these legendary Pokemon on your screen right now, including Heatran, Cresselia, Meloetta, Virizion, Terrakion, and Cobalion, can be fought at any time. They are not tied to any sort of limited time event. They can be battled at any time and then be captured. And once you defeat them, you can recapture them once again by defeating them every 3 months or so. You can always find more about that information as well over in your instance info. That is a great resource for these high-end raid boss legendaries. Now, all of these legendary raid bosses are very, very endgame content. You're going to need a ton of different and specific OT raid Pokemon, and this video is not going to be a raid guide on how to beat all of these. There are tons of other YouTubers and creators like Jinxboon who have a lot of amazing guides on how to defeat some of these raids. And some of these fights are actually so new that there's not even a ton of guides out there, so we're still seeing stuff develop over time. If you have not seen the Heatran raid, here is a little taste. It is very complex and it requires 4 people all being extremely coordinated and on the same page. There's different spreadsheets, Excel documents, and tons of extra information on these very, very complex endgame raids. I do want to qualify, anybody can do these. It's just going to take a lot of hard work, blood, sweat, and tears, and reading spreadsheets. These kind of raids are a fine mix of I don't want people to be over intimidated, but I also don't want you to be under prepared. At the end of the day, it is totally okay to attempt these raids and lose a few times and just learn and figure out what you might need to do. These raids are a perfect example of sometimes the best way to improve is just getting your hands dirty and really trying for some hands-on practice. But these Pokemon and their raids are all so specific, I would recommend checking out individual guides for each of these. It's a bit too much to cover here in this overview video. But if you need some help or want to be pointed in the right direction, leave a comment and I'll try my best to link you to some sort of resource. Now, the main raid resource that I do recommend everybody checking out is the PokeMMO Raid Den Discord, which there should be a link to in the description. This Discord is a fantastic resource for finding most of the strategies for most raids in the game. Just asking questions. You can actually see on the left side of the screen the Perma Raid Plaza with different chat rooms for Heatran, Cresselia, Meloetta, anybody trying to learn strategies, figure things out. They are all over in this Discord. You can also see the Looking for Team section where you can find other like-minded individuals with similar teams looking to complete these raids, since you need 4 people to do this, and I believe you can't solo queue for a lot of these permanent endgame hyper like boss style raids. But I believe that is everything for this video when it comes to permanent raid bosses. Next up, we have holiday legendaries, and thankfully these ones are pretty simple. Shaman comes from the Lunar New Year event, and Jirachi comes from the Christmas or winter event within PokeMMO. Now, Darkrai is kind of similar to these, but also not. But he's going to matter in for this next little segment that I talked about, so bear with me. The way that you actually unlock the ability to encounter or catch these event legendary Pokemon is by doing the 12 to 8 raids, depending on the event, that come with that holiday event. Now, that sounds really complicated, but it's really not all that bad. The hard part is actually learning all the raids and preparing all the Pokemon ahead of time. I have videos for each of these events. If you Google how to prepare for the Christmas raids, how to prepare for the Lunar New Year event raids, and how to prepare for the Halloween raids, I have videos on all of these topics, and they should be relevant for the next few years. Now, for example, let me just show you. These are the Lunar New Year event raids. So if you defeat the Zebstrika raid, the Lopunny raid, the Ampharos raid, the Perugly raid, the Grumpig raid, the Stoutland raid, the Steelix raid, the Slacking raid, the Tauros raid, the Braviary raid, the Excadrill raid, and the Gyarados raid, then you unlock the ability to do the Shaman raid and then can permanently catch and own 1 Shaman per year. The same thing is true with the Xmas event or winter event, and here are those raids on screen right now. Once again, tons of guides for all of these all over my channel. If you're looking for anything specific or need a link, always feel free to comment and I will try to point you in the right direction. Also, a huge shout out to Call Me Sensei over on the PokeMMO forums, who makes a lot of these raid guides and event guides, and I love using them in my videos as a quick little collage of everything for the event. So I just cannot thank this person enough. They do a ton of amazing work on the forums, and I mention them a ton in videos. This is what the backbone of PokeMMO looks like. Alright, so you beat a bunch of raids, and then you unlock the Shaman raid, you beat a bunch of raids, and then you unlock the Jirachi raid. And then for Darkrai, you beat a bunch of raids, and then you unlock the Darkrai Summoning Orb, which looks like this. And in-game looks like this. And the way that this works is you can actually go ahead and use it to spawn Darkrai, and then Darkrai will join your team for a limited period of time. However, you cannot queue up for PvP or do a lot of PVM things with Darkrai. You can do some things, though I believe certain raids allow him, and he has been actually meta at certain raids. Now, the more you use Darkrai, the more you will be able to, the longer you'll be able to actually own him over time. I believe he starts at 1 hour, and then you can eventually build him up to being 2 hours of ownership. And after this timer is up, he will poof away once again. You can use things like nature herbs to affect Darkrai's nature the same way you could with any other Pokemon. You do have to EV train him manually when you poof him into your party like this, and then he'll stay that way when he goes away. And I believe that mostly explains Darkrai. He is a weird one. You can also buy these watches. There is this item over on the GTL, which you do also get from doing the fights, typically, the actual Darkrai raid. These Mystic watches, and these will reset the cooldown of your summoning orb. Otherwise, you have to wait like multiple days or so at times. And Mystic watches are very cheap right now. So honestly, if you need to use Darkrai, just have a couple of these in your bag, and you should be able to use him pretty much infinitely, which is kind of crazy. Darkrai isn't used for a whole lot, but a lot of high-end players, and myself included, do think that he's kind of actually underutilized just because he is so weird and niche. This was the PokeMMO developers' attempt at trying to add an uber legendary to PokeMMO because so many people wanted those, but make them not break the game entirely. The problem is with adding like too powerful of legendary Pokemon, and I'm not going to go into great, this is like a whole different video, but the problem in general is that it warps all content around it. You don't want raids in PokeMMO to be, oh, just grab these 6 uber tier legendaries like Rayquaza, Darkrai, you know, anything crazy, right? Like, you don't want the raids to devolve, or, you know, Groudon, Kyogre, right? You don't want raids to devolve into just grabbing the strongest legendaries and then just go crushing the content. That is super unbalanced and unfun. Legendary Pokemon are not balanced around a lot of things in PokeMMO, like raids and endgame PVM content. Legendary Pokemon are meant to be given to you as a treat once you beat the storyline, you know, traditional Pokemon games, and their power levels are inherently broken, but it doesn't really matter because they gave them to you after you already beat the game. In PokeMMO, the game is infinite, so if we give you super powerful uber legendary tier Pokemon, it just warps all of the meta, all of the gameplay around it. So the devs tried to implement Darkrai with the Summoning Orb, and it turns out a lot of Pokemon players didn't really like that. Understandably so. I think a lot of people are coming around to it now, but I totally understand the frustration. A lot of Pokemon is about permanently owning your friends, your Pokemon, the things that you know connect with, and sort of building them up. It can't really do that as well with Darkrai when he disappears every few hours and can't really be used in a lot of pieces of content. But controversies aside, that is how you achieve Darkrai. And he's not permanently ownable, but like kind of is, you know, it's a whole complicated thing with the Mystic Watches and the Summoning Orb. And I do actually want to rewind and go back to Shaman because you do see Skyform Shaman on your screen. You can get Skyform Shaman in PokeMMO, and it does cost a lot of Gracidua flowers, which are also how you affect the IVs, which I hopefully covered earlier in this video. But it costs 1,000 Grasiduas to unlock being able to transform each individual Shaman into Skyform. I actually have this one over here, which is my original Shaman from 2023 when it was first added to the game, and I actually do have Skyform unlocked on this, so it only costs 25 Gracidua flowers to jump into the Skyform once you've actually unlocked. I'll go ahead and do that for you guys now, just to show it on camera because why not? Now, Skyform Shaman is similar to Darkrai, where it's very, very powerful, and it is used in certain raids. It lasts for 6 hours, you can see there. It is used in certain raids and certain content from my understanding, but it cannot be used in PvP. It is on the PvP ban list, I believe. If we go over here, yep, Skyform Shaman is banned in all forms of PvP. It would just be considered too strong, but that is out of my depth, honestly. I am no PvP expert. But with my Skyform Shaman and my Darkrai out, I think it's a perfect time to go ahead and call it. I believe that covers everything. If I miss anything, you have questions, comments, of course, are always appreciated. Like the video physically if it did answer your questions and it helped you learn a little bit more about PokeMMO. That means the world to me. Consider subscribing if you want to see daily PokeMMO videos. I do upload every single day, and I usually stream Monday through Thursday at 12 p.m. ET. My Discord is linked down below if you want to see updates. Sometimes I change if I'm not live or go live an extra day for a catch event or something is happening in life. You'll see updates to my streams and just tons of questions and community down in my Discord link down below. And if you want to go above and beyond and support my content, if my channel, if my videos have helped your Pokemon journey enough and you can afford it, those two things are a must, then you can go ahead and above and beyond with YouTube memberships, Twitch Primes, Twitch subs, and PayPal and Venmo donations do actually go the longest way. And I cannot say thank you enough to everybody who does actually support. It really allows me to be here and make the content that I do. But most importantly, I hope this video was a positive asset to your day. And for now, I'll see you guys later. Peace, Reno. Yo, what's up? Outro Patrouski here, and I wanted to say thank you so much to everybody's name who is on this list. You really allow me to make the content that I do every single day, and I hope I can make it worth your guys' while and add to your Pokemon journey. Thanks again so much for watching the entire video, and have a great day.